So hi everyone, let's come back to this class, and this is a recorded lecture from me. And the second one third of this class will be focusing on in search for meaning. And this is going to be an extension or an expansion of the first one third of our class that has focused on the stories. In the first couple of weeks, we have discussed about the stories made by other people. Now, at this moment, we are going to create the stories of our own. So, I will discuss four major topics. The first one is who, second is why, third is what, and the last one is how. Now, without further ado, then let's go first with who. So, again, in this class, I follow very strongly the idea proposed by the Greek philosophers. The highest accomplishment of human learning is the self-knowledge. So you know who you are, you know what you need to do, and what you need to serve better for the humanity. So we will start from the deepest part of us, that's us. So I will just give you a little examples of who I am. And this is just the opening part of it, and it will give you a great overview of what meaning making is all about. So to introduce you, first, I'm the baby of the family out of 5 siblings, and I was born in 1974, pretty long ago in comparison to yours. And I was born at Manoreh Mountain, Kulon Progo, and that was the pre-digital era. I was born and raised with no electricity, with no phone lines, with no running water. So that's a brief overview about my background. What about my education? This is certainly my background. I graduated from English Education Department, and my first master's program, master's degree was from Boston University, second one from Loyola, and my doctorate from Loyola as well. And uh, since 1999, I have taught at the English education, the undergraduate program. And in 2016, with other lecturers, I also established the master's program of English education. And in addition to that, I also have become the Vice Dean of Student Affairs back to 2005 to 2006. And for 7 years, 2014, 2021, I was head of Quality Assurance Office. Last January, I finished my job as the head of Quality Assurance Office. That was the information about me in brief. And I want you to tell you about who you are. So in order to create the stories, you need to tell me and the rest of the class about where you are from, what have you learned from your major figures in your life, how is the relationship between you and your parents or your siblings. And you need to ask yourself, who am I truly fighting for? And you need to be able to answer all these questions. What academic challenges do I have? You need to tell you yourself about all the complexities and the challenges that you have. And in order to create meaning-making process as you seek out the betterment of your life. Now, after we discuss about who you are, now it's time for you to ask why. Why do we need to discuss about searching meaning? What is the centrality of the values of meaning making here? So I have two reasons here. because human beings are characterized by mental flexibility. And the mental flexibility in human beings is determined by the power of stories. Again, this is directly related to the first one-third of our class, the power of stories. Now, what do we mean about mental flexibility? So I have this basically from Yuval Noah Harari. He wrote 3 wonderful books. The first book is Homo Sapiens, the second one is Homo Deus, and the last one is 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. In Homo Sapiens, he described the huge narrative of humanity. That is how humans become the master of their environment or universe. And later in Homo Deus, he described about the reality that humans have become God. In the last book, he provoked us to think about the challenges that we remain to face. So, well, in brief, he describes 3 kinds of revolution. The revolution number 1 is about cognitive revolution. The second one is agricultural revolution. And the third one is scientific one. So you can see that the cognitive revolution lasted for 70,000 years, while agricultural revolution took only 12,000 years. And the last one, the scientific revolution, lasted or has lasted in the past 500 years. But you can see that what has happened in the last 500 years really changed huge to the civilization itself. So this is an example of how humans have become a wonderful storytellers. Even on our economic system, we are much storytellers. So a case in point here, the question is very simple. Will chimpanzee take a piece of banana, a little banana, or this 100,000 banknotes? Yeah, which one? I believe this is the answer. Chimpanzee will take a piece of banana instead of money. Why? Because chimpanzees do not have any imaginations. Chimpanzees do not believe in stories. Chimpanzees do not believe in economic systems. So, why? Because this is an example of that human beings believe in stories. Economic system is only a story. So it is true that our money does not have direct value. We cannot eat them directly. I cannot eat my money directly. It will not make me full, you know. Well, it is based on paper, so basically I can eat them, but they cannot make me full, and it is not nutritious at all, you know. But we believe the power of money because with this money I can buy a lot more than just one piece of banana. And another example of this one, the story of living in retirement comfortably. Back forward in 1833, an Ireland mathematician found an accounting system to allow pension or retirement system. That's the story. You can imagine that chimpanzees do not have any system of retirement. Even when a chimpanzee become very old, you know, it's difficult to find food. Well, there is no system to make that happen. You know, but humans are just different because we have economic system. And the economic system is just a story, you know. And here, another story from health issues here. I'm talking about the pandemic, and when Black Death took up more than 30% of European population in 1547 to 1551, the series of death was believed to come from demons or evil spirits. But 100 years afterwards, Anton van Leeuwenhoek, a Dutch guy, invented microscope. And it is through the microscope that he learned from a single drop of rainwater, he could find thousands of bacteria. So started from the era of scientific revolution, people started to believe that death does not come from evil spirits. Death comes from bacteria and viruses. And you can imagine, the story goes 3 centuries or 300 years after the microscope was invented, the scientific revolution that humans undergo so far have created more than 300 vaccines and immunizations. So you can imagine that here, in just 500 years, the number of population on Earth increased 14 times due to better health system, due to better food technology, due to better economy. And again, the health system is a matter of stories, the power of stories that we have. Okay, so this is human beings, yeah, the meaning making of humanity is that we create our own stories. Now, we have discussed two things. First is who, and second is why. Now, let's move on to the third part. That's the what part. My question is, we will create our own stories, but how? What kinds of stories? I would assume that there are two options. Do we have the true mental flexibility, or do we have growth mindset or fixed mindset? Now, here is the case. There are two options again. So, for example, when things go bad, just like today during COVID-19 pandemic, will we be overwhelmed with negativities? Negativities include certainly despair, frustration, pessimism, or anxiety? Or do we have the opposite response? We really want to make ourselves more responsible, for example. So we ask yourself, are we becoming risk-taking people? Are we optimistic? Are we grateful? Are we helpful? Are we cheerful? So there are two options. What kinds of attitude do you really want to create? What kind of stories are you going to make? And this is a very powerful question. Now the example is this one. There are 6 characteristics of fixed mindset. In a fixed mindset, we believe that our talents, our characteristics are basically fixed. You cannot change your intelligence. You cannot change who you are because they are there, they are given. With that kind of things in mind, then we do not let ourselves enjoy the risk. We will not allow ourselves to be risk takers. Because doing the risk-taking activities means you will have some efforts. And for fixed mindset people, then efforts are not allowed because efforts are only those who are not smart enough. So when you get some kind of issues or problems, it is very likely that you will cover up the flaws or limitations and you become very defensive. And if you get some feedback, you will feel it or you will accept that as a personal attack. And then when you see somebody else successful, you feel threatened. The question is, what kinds of mindset that we are going to create? What kinds of stories that we are going to create? Now, well, in order to illustrate the kinds of stories, I create my own story. And here is my own story. Again, I was born and raised in Kulon Progo Samigalo. And then my father was a former school teacher and from the elementary school one. And the reason why I share this because this is the defining moment of my life. Why? Because I happen to have series of bad experiences my schooling. What does it mean? And I had to attend a class taught by my own father for 3 years. And at home, I was very afraid of my own father. At school, the feeling of powerlessness was only enhanced or strengthened. And my first 3 years of elementary school, my math was just so excellent. But you can imagine in the next 3 years of it, it was very, very, very bad. And I happened to continue to my junior high school with almost similar experience in my elementary school one. Math and physics were too bad for me, and the teachers were just very similar to my own father. They're tough and unforgiving. I have a very, very bad or bleak, cloudy future because you know what? Math and physics, I couldn't study well with all those two resources. And then you can imagine that I moved to my senior high school. What did I have? And this is the story. Although I was not good in my elementary and junior high school, in junior high school, I remained to be the best student. Yeah. In my senior high, I was ranked 16 out of 24 students in the class. And again, math and physics as well as chemistry were a disaster for me. But here's the twist, Since my junior high, anyway, I started to learn English independently. And this is something that is interesting for you. I tried to develop my growth mindset with my English. I saw a friend of my sister. He always memorized English words anytime. And I just followed suit. And you know what? After years and years of practice, memorizing English vocabulary anytime I went, I ended up being a walking dictionary. So my friends will ask if they have difficult words, they will ask me, and I will always have answer for that because I was just excellent in memorizing English words. And this, the twist, led me to find a sense of purpose in my life. This is something that is good, and I give you the illustration of my change, of my transformation in my senior high school. My school is a 4-year program. It is in Magelang, and because it's a minor seminary, Seminari Menengah Pertoyutan. And you can imagine here, there are 4 years. I was there for 4 years. And this is the progression. I was ranked 16 for the first time, but I ended up ranked 3rd when I was in the 4th year. So I tried to embrace the growth mindset, trying to embrace the criticism, the critique, and be happy when I receive feedback from other people. And I'm not defensive. And that's how I created my own story. So this is the story of me, yeah? And this is the basically how I created my own story, even though I have difficulties in my life. And this is another story. Probably it's called a successful one, a success story anyway. But I always rely mostly on scholarships for my study, from my bachelor's degree, my 2 master's degree, and my doctorate degree. All of them mostly are supported by scholarships. So this is the what, what kinds of stories you are going to create. Now, here, I would assume that in the next 4 or 5 meetings, I think it's 4 meetings, we will learn from different sources here. 2 things. First, from the theoretical framework, and the second one is the exemplars. The theoretical framework is certainly drawn from the basic concept of the growth mindset. And here are examples. We will learn from Carol Dweck, Sean Acker, and Lee Duckworth, and Amy Cuddy. And I will certainly comfortable adjusting the theories. And then later you will learn also from the exemplars. They are just wonderful people with interesting stories of transformation. Lina Kay, who happened to be suicidal in her youth moment, Barbara Oakley, and Benjamin Carson. So you are going to learn from them. So you are going to learn from the theoretical frameworks and also exemplars. And in terms of product, as usual, you will have check for understandings to maintain your understanding of the text of the passage that you have attended. And then you are going to create your own personal narrative. So that's exactly how our class will look like. And there are 4 areas of things that we have discussed already. And basically, you are going to certainly go ahead with that one. So I will end this conversation, and thanks a lot for this activity.